Hey y'all. Today I'm gonna attempt an interview that is scheduled right now with Tommy Kendall, a NASCAR sports car driver. All right, let's see how it turns out. I'm sure it's gonna turn out well. All right, let's see.
Hello, Douglas.
Hey Tommy, what's up?
How are you?
I'm good. I'm really good. I'm having a pretty good day, I'll say. It's a good weekend.
I'm in the same boat, actually. I had a very productive morning, which was needed to get some stuff sort of just sorted so I can have a more relaxed mind.
Nice. Yeah, I'm enjoying life this year and last year a lot more than I did a few years back. I'm enjoying life again.
Well, thank God for that. Wow, that's good for you. I'm glad that you're out of the dark.
Yeah, that was kind of a rough period, and I made some poor choices in high school, and I've repented from them over the years, and I've become a born-again Christian.
Well, good for you.
Yeah, and that played a role in my comeback that I've made over the years.
Well, good for you. That's we all. I hesitate to even call them mistakes. Calling bad choices is better, actually, because that's how we get to where we are.
Pretty much.
Everyone has a different path.
Yeah.
Some are more meandering, some are uphill and downhill, some are more direct. The more cautious you can be of what's going on.
Yeah.
If you're emotional or upset or understanding how you make bad choices is instructive to keep you from trying to make them again.
Definitely. Yeah. And part of the reason that I've made a comeback is I've continued my involvement in NASCAR and IndyCar.
Well, good.
Yeah.
I mean, that's following your heart, which obviously that's close to your heart, or it seems to be from what I know about you. So, well, that's good. Well, why don't we get started? And,
Definitely.
I don't know how we do this or where you want to go with it, but I'm game for whatever.
I kind of have a list of questions about your racing career.
Okay.
I have like 35 of them.
Oh boy. Okay. Well, with that in mind, I will be somewhat concise so that this isn't a 2-hour call.
All right. Sounds good. So yeah, the first one is, have you ever gone through a rough period in your racing career?
Well, I've gone through several, and I should, I guess, qualify. The roughest one physically was when I had my big accident in 1991, and I broke both my legs and ankles and all that. So
yeah, I kind of had a feeling that was the one you were going to say.
So that was a rough one, and then I would say I had a rough one a few years after that. Well, after making my comeback, and realizing that I was, kind of I wasn't really in favor anymore at Chevrolet. It was a difficult. That was a tough period.
Yeah.
Working really hard to try to put stuff together, and no matter what happened, there was always a good reason for it. I figured out the reason was they lost confidence, and so fortunately I rebounded with Roush, and due to a good friend being there and kind of knowing that I was not damaged, and so it was good for them and it was good for me, but it was critical juncture. So one thing just in general, I guess I'll talk about just mental. Most of our challenges, the mental part of it's almost always either harder or exacerbated by the mental side of it.
Yeah.
And so it's important to kind of learn how to be your own shrink or your own therapist, your own advisor, talk yourself through stuff, because you can get into a really negative spiral. And so that was something I learned early on to sort of check myself and get myself, corrected. So anyway, but tough times is usually how you figure out how to do that.
Yeah. And That's kind of what happened to me in high school. I started out as a good student, and I literally won 4 Student of the Month titles. And basically something happened in my sophomore year, and that's when things went downhill, if you know what I mean.
Wow, yeah, high school, man, that's a tough age.
Yeah, it is. Especially when you have the pride in you that you think you know everything when you really don't. You know what I mean?
I think that's almost a given. Almost everyone at that age think they know everything, but and what the key flaw is not knowing what you don't know. And that's something that usually comes with age. And
yeah.
the more you know, the more you realize you don't know.
Yeah, that's what I've learned every year. I always learn new things every year, whether about NASCAR or whether about my religion, etc.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the fun too. It's never ending. There's just wherever your curiosity or interest take you, there's just endless worlds. So
yeah,
that's
So yeah, my next question after that is, how did you get your cup ride with Felix Ibadis in 1991?
Again, and Tom is going to hold that lead as they come off of the corner and head toward the start-finish line.
Martin made a much better corner that time, did not lose the back end. He still lost a couple of car lengths, but last time, as Ned pointed out, lost about 10 car lengths.
Well, what brought it about was Kyle Petty breaking his leg in Talladega. Now, how they thought to call me, I'm not totally sure about that. I'd run a couple races beforehand. I ran the Hendrick R&D car at Watkins Glen in '89. I led that race and late in the race, and so that put me on a lot of people's radar. And then I won the Trans Am Championship in 1990. Did a few more Cup races it was a Dale Earnhardt, basically before Dale Earnhardt incorporated his Busch Grand National team, looked after the car, and we ran well in those two, had a top 10 at Watkins Glen. And so I think the combination of those things, and I was a big-time factory guy in the road race side of things at GM. So GM, even though I was with Chevy and that was a Pontiac, that probably had something to do with it as well.
Yeah, because, I don't think they just hire people without knowing about your skills behind the wheel. So I'm sure that they saw some skills in you, They had to.
Yeah. Well, it's word of mouth, too, so, but that's the beauty of it. Like they say in the stock market, past performance is no guarantee of future.
Yeah.
But you start to see patterns, for sure.
Definitely. And what was your reaction when Mark Martin attempted unsuccessfully to pass you and your tire got cut?
Ricky Rudd and Bill Elliott. Down through turn number 6 again, headed onto the straightaway.
I'll tell you, he's going to get all the pressure he can stand. Here's Martin now.
Yep.
Going to try it on the outside. This is a pass we've seen several times. They touch a little bit coming into the turn. Martin drives her in deep to lock the brakes. That won't get it. Well, here he comes. Back him on the outside. He's not able to do it.
Oh!
Again. Martin spins around and slams into the guardrail on the inside. Wow.
Martin has spun, is going to be able to pull away, however. He's going to put one of those tires in the middle of the racetrack, and Bobby Hillin hit it. A lot of action has been seen in turn number 7, Ned, where you are.
And Kendall put the bumper to him.
And Davey Allison, meanwhile, has passed Kendall, and here comes Ricky Rudd to do likewise.
Ricky Rudd, if he can take on the victory, there's Tommy Kendall with all the cars going by him. I know Felix Ibadis must be, Gary Nelson, the crew must be so sad. And Kendall can't get the car to turn, almost ran in the bank.
Yeah, he's struggling with that car, and it's a really tough break for Tom Kendall, but he has definitely proven himself as a great race driver.
Well, it's funny. We just rehashed that whole episode 27 years after the fact, or 28 years after the fact, on Mark's podcast.
Ooh.
So, because we were teammates at Roush for 5 years and never spoke about the incident. But
Yeah.
I was bummed because before that yellow came out, I had a commanding lead and would have been able to hold on and win, but that's not how things work. And so I knew he was better on short runs and I was probably better on the long runs. So he was coming at me hard early and I was trying to hold him off until the tires got a little hot. But you know, he whether it was intentional or unintentional, probably unintentional, he gave you a pretty good slam in the door going into turn 7. And the way that stuff works is, you know, when that happens, you're like, okay, I kind of owe him one. And I think he was really trying to keep me pinned down to the inside because that was key to passing on the outside. And so, I wasn't tickled with that. But then, you know, it didn't do any of us any good the way it turned out because he crashed and I ended up with a flat tire. So I'm not sure what I would have done differently. I guess to settle for second probably wasn't in my vocabulary. It probably isn't even now. You know, I probably wouldn't change it, although I wish it had turned out different.
Yeah, sometimes things happen in racing like that, and I kind of feel for you because, you know, you were probably one of the ringers that, you know, actually should have won a race, if you know what I mean.
Well, I appreciate that. Speaking of being young and thinking you know it all, I mean, I was 24, and even though I was so close there, I was like, you know, there's no reason I can't do that next time or again, and I'm going to win not just one, I'm going to win a bunch of these. And things don't work out that way. I had my big accident a few weeks later, and had some other shots, but never got that close to winning again. Yeah.
Did you hear about what happened on the final lap between Ricky Rudd and Davey Allison, in which Rudd got black flagged for wrecking him and Allison still won? What was your reaction to that?
Allison leads Rudd down through the S's. That's Dave Marcus just ahead of Davey.
Bob, surprise, a Ford Davey Allison win of a road course. Is this the checker or the white flag? I've lost track.
And coming up on the white flag, Benny. Here they are.
Rudd is there.
11. Oh, and Davey Allison is spun.
Today from the wine country of the Sonoma Valley of Northern California. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Bob Jenkins, and welcome to Sears Point, a demanding 2.5-mile road course.
I remember Sonoma, we had an awfully good race car, and we were actually leading the race with about 2 or 3 laps to go.
The question is, can Rudd catch Davey Allison?
Every time we went to Sonoma, we always had a good run out there. I remember we were always competitive, and we got fresh tires, and we were coming through the field and made up ground and worked our way back up towards the front with just, you know, a few laps to go. I didn't know if we had enough time to catch Davey. We were running out of time, and I just remember we were coming up on the white flag lap.
Allison leads Rudd down through the S's. It's Dave Marcus just ahead of Davey.
We got hung up behind Dave Marcus, who was actually a lap-down car in the 71 car, and it held Davey up just enough that Ricky Rudd was able to get to our rear bumper.
Here they are. Rudd is there. 11. Oh, and Davey Allison is spun.
And I remember coming into turn 11, and I got to really go hard, so that was the one of the big passing points was in the brake zone coming into turn 11. So I basically came in there really hot, out of control, committed to going as deep as I could. And we touched, and Benny did sort of a half spin and got it gathered up, came right in behind me, came around, took the white flag.
Davey got going and got back in line. They had a big enough lead on the rest of the field that we fell back in second behind Ricky, but all of a sudden Robert Yates, who monitored NASCAR, said they're not going to give Ricky Rudd the win. So tell Davey he's the leader of the race.
And Ricky Rudd is going to receive the win of the Banquet Frozen Foods 300. Here he comes, waving to the pit crew as he passes by. The black flag is shown to Ricky Rudd. Rudd is shown the black flag. Davey Allison is shown the checkered flag.
Instead of seeing a checker flag, I saw a black flag. And I'm thinking, what in the world? I've never seen that before, and you know, what's going on here?
They shouldn't have thrown the black flag. They just should have thrown the BS flag, because that's what that was. Those guys got into each other, right, wrong, or indifferent. It's happened 20 million times in NASCAR history, and they've never done anything about it except one time, one single time.
We're not going to say a word. We're going to enjoy this victory. We're going to celebrate. We're going to go through post-race inspection. If we go over there and start staking our claim, that means we're making a statement that we're doubting that we won the race. We just need to go through the motions and do everything just like we took the checkered flag first and we won the race.
I'll never forget after the race how Waddell and Waddell's son, they didn't take it very well, and they actually had words with the Francis, and it was very heated for those guys. I mean, it was a lot of pushing and shoving and screaming and yelling.
I don't understand this. You know, I've been racing since '63, and this is about one of the calls I've seen made in a long time. And if they're going to take this away from us, this is totally wrong. I've seen it happen time and time again through the years, and they've never taken a race from no one yet doing this. If they do this, this is rotten.
I guess probably when he said he was ready to quit and give it up, it hurt. I mean, you know, you live, breathe, sleep racing, and you live for those days to contend for a win, and then it's just like someone ripped your heart out. And I know where he came from. I was right there with him. I was ready to do the same.
You know, it was an accident. I got into Davey. It was my fault, yeah. He was a lead car and I got into him. But I didn't get a black flag until a white flag lap. And I don't know, I just fed up with this mess.
Legally or illegally?
Under race procedures, where penalties are imposed during the contest or in this incident after the contest is over, it's a non-appealable, non-protestable decision. It's final.
You know, I kind of agreed probably with the call, although it was the first time, I think, in history that they had ever done that kind of a penalty. And so that was the big story, was, oh my God, I can't believe they penalized someone like that. So in road racing, that kind of stuff happened a fair amount. The idea is, it's a fine line, and people will argue about this till the end of time. You know, how much should you let go to encourage hard racing, and how much should you know, and my feeling on that generally is, if a guy just kind of isn't really making that much of an attempt to pass and just more or less hits him in the back, that's kind of the cheaper stuff. If when the decision they made to try to pass was a reasonable decision, then I think you kind of need to let him race. So it was, you know, again, you'll never get universal agreement. That's probably a good thing. It's no different than any controversial call in any sport. You have people on both sides of it, and that's what keeps them tuned in and engaged.
Yeah, and they must have thought that it was pretty bad because, like you said, that was like the first time that happened. And you saw Dale Earnhardt do it a number of times, and it's like, wow, that was the first time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was definitely interesting, and so and it's funny because Davey, I got to know Davey a little bit over the years, and I remember vividly an exchange at Riverside a couple years before that. Qualifying was going on, and he was sitting in the garage all by himself, and I walked by and said, "What's up?" He goes, "I hate these places. I hate these road races."
Ooh.
And I said, I watch every year someone, the light goes on, and they're like, "This is no different than any other race. You just got to learn how to do it." And when the light goes on, all of a sudden that person's a road racer. And so it was interesting just a few short years later to see Davey, you know, be running that well. And once you run well, then you like them. And once you like them, then you run better more often. It's a virtuous cycle.
I see what you're saying. That makes sense. What did Felix Ibadis say to you after that race when the tire got cut down?
He was really bummed for me. He was a really emotional guy. You know, he was really, wore his heart on his sleeve, and he had promised me he was going to give me the gold watch off his wrist if I won, based on a conversation at dinner. So he said, "I really wanted to give you that watch," and I said, "Not as badly as I wanted you to give it to me."
All right. Would you have driven the 42 car at the Glen that year had you not gotten into that wreck at IMSA?
Back live at Watkins Glen, we've had another big crash in the Turn 5 area. It's one of the Chevrolet-powered Intrepid cars, either Tommy Kendall or Wayne Taylor. It's the 65 car, and that is Kendall. Let's take another look. Trailing Jeff Brabham's Nissan into the corner. And the car just comes around. One of the rear wheel spats comes.
The rear wheel came off.
Rear wheel came right off the car, and this is a hard hit. Oh.
Good grief, that was a horribly hard hit. The wheel came off. You saw it push the wheel, spat out of the way, loaded the wheel up as he turned right into that corner. The left rear wheel came off. There you see the area on the map, the Turn 5. Turn in there in these high downforce cars, probably 145 miles an hour, maybe 150 even.
Corner workers gesturing for help. We have a full course caution. Tommy Kendall is a very tall driver, so his legs stick right out into the front of that car. Tommy is about 6 feet 6 inches tall. And the first thing you think about is leg injuries in a head-on impact like that. Now they're calling for first aid help. You can see the roll cage exposed at the top of the car where the bodywork came off. Corner workers obviously communicating with Kendall, or trying to. From La Cañada, California, Tommy Kendall looking forward to getting married this fall. Here's another look, and watch for the rear wheel to detach from the car. Heavy stress on the left side of the car at this point. Rear end starts to come around because of the loss of one of the wheels. There's some kind of a flame or some sort of...
That's where the upright hit the floor, I would imagine. The wheel on its own, of course, this is another thing that could have been dangerous. It jumps right over the fence as the car itself does the most tremendous pirouette. It hits right on his side. The right front corner hit those tire barriers. And, of course, thank goodness for the tire barrier. Soaks up a tremendous amount of energy.
Reports from the corners that Tommy is conscious. There in the foreground with the blue light is a yellow Porsche provided by Porsche North America to IMSA for use as a rapid response vehicle. It carries important life-saving equipment and a qualified physician, right, driven by a licensed race driver to get to the scene of an accident in a hurry. So we have a serious accident here involving 24-year-old Tommy Kendall, who is reported to be conscious in the car. They're working on him. We'll take a quick time out and return to Watkins Glen.
Yes, that was the plan. I was going to sub for both of those races, and then couldn't.
Yeah, that race I heard was kind of tainted by McDuffie's accident. What was your reaction to that when you heard about it?
Between the first and second corners, up to 119, now up to 120. The RPMs there at 7,300, fluctuating between 71 and 7,800. The throttle responses, Dale has it all the way to the floor now on the backstretch. He is in fourth gear. Some great information coming from the Ford telemetry, and now he begins to apply the brakes as he sets the car into turn number 5. It gets way off the throttle, shifts to third, speed reducing to about 88 miles an hour, all the way down to 86 before he comes out of the corner and begins to stand on the throttle once again and accelerate up to 120, 135. Look at the speed increase out of turn number 5, headed for turn number 6. Speed increasing once again, second gear.
And here's trouble, big trouble here in turn 5.
Oh, a car is upside down.
Bob, there are two cars. They came in here so fast, and one of them did hit the other one and did get upside down. Both of them hit very hard.
I believe that's J.D. McDuffie who is on his roof.
And one of the drivers is coming out of the car right now.
That's Jimmy Means. And now he's going to see if he can assist J.D. McDuffie in getting out of his car. McDuffie's car is on its roof, and Jimmy Means is calling for assistance. This is turn number 5, the one that has created so many problems here at Watkins Glen, not only in Winston Cup racing, but also in GTP competition. There's McDuffie.
There's a wheel. Where in the world did that wheel come from as J.D. plows in the wall, and evidently he has and Jimmy Means goes into the wall while Means is in the air. Thank the Lord that he went in there while JD was up in the air.
It appeared as if that wheel had come off the car before he left the racetrack and went on to the grassy area there, but there is major damage to the wall, as you can see, and of course our major concern is the condition of J.D. McDuffie. The other car involved is Jimmy Means, and he is already out of his car. The ambulance on the scene now assisting J.D. We'll be back with more from the Budweiser at the Glen in a moment. Glen, the race has been stopped. We've had a serious crash over in turn number 5, and here is a replay of what happened. J.D. McDuffie and Jimmy Means involved. This is McDuffie, the wheel already off the car, sliding off the track into the grass. He makes hard contact with that tire barrier in turn number 5. Then the car overturns. Meanwhile, Jimmy Means also slides into the tire barrier. His car stays upright, but Means, or rather McDuffie's car, is in an inverted state at the moment. Now, Means was able to climb out of his car almost immediately. He went to check on J.D. McDuffie and signaled for the ambulance, and the ambulance, as you can see, has arrived on the scene. Here's Ned with Jimmy.
Well, thank goodness Jimmy Means is out here walking around. A little bit of a skin there on the chin. Everything else okay, Jimmy?
Yeah, Ned, I don't know what happened. You know, I've been looking. JD's been in my mirror the whole time, and you know, I was kind of watching him. He's running really good, and I don't know where I cut down on him or he come in there, lost his brakes or what. But next thing I knew, it, you know, hit me in the side. I hope he's all right. You know, he took a pretty bad leg there, so I'm fine. But I don't know about JD.
Well, you went right under him. It looked like when his car was up in the air.
Yeah, I believe it did. You know, I don't know what happened. It just seemed like. You know, if you lose your brakes going down that straightaway, there's nothing else to do, but I don't know if that's what happened or not.
Well, we appreciate you coming by and chatting with us, and hope everything else is okay.
Thank you, Neil.
Jimmy Means, one of those involved in this crash down in turn number 5. This is the same corner that Tom Kendall was injured in a few weeks ago in a GTP car when his suspension or hub broke on that car, and he went in hard and is now probably watching this race this afternoon from his home in California and doing well in his recuperation from leg and feet injury suffered in that crash. And now we are looking at the scene of the crash where they continue to try to get J.D. McDuffie out of that car. Let's go to Jerry Punch.
Bob, I'm standing in J.D. McDuffie's pit. And as you see, most of the crew members who work on J.D.'s car week in and week out are not here. They have already left to go back to the garage area to check on J.D.'s condition. Now, they had radioed to J.D. a couple of times after the accident and had not heard back from him. That doesn't mean that J.D. is injured. Doesn't mean anything at all. As a matter of fact, if you remember back at Talladega when they had the major pileup in May, the crew of Kyle Petty couldn't talk to Kyle because Kyle's radio had come unconnected, which is not uncommon with an impact on a racetrack, and they thought Kyle was more seriously injured than he was. And they were, of course, afraid. But the crew here are unable to talk to JD, so they have left the pit area, headed back to the garage area to try to get more information. And we'll update you when we hear more from down here.
You just never know about the severity of these crashes. As you indicated, Jerry, some that look very bad turn out to be not all that bad as far as injuries are concerned. And on the other hand, some that don't look too bad can result in serious injuries. All we can do right now is just pray that JD is okay and he can be gotten out of that car quickly into the ambulance and treated at a local hospital. In the meantime, with the race stopped here at Watkins Glen, we'll take this break. Jerry Punch now with Chip Williams from NASCAR.
Well, with further information on the status of J.D. McDuffie, here is Chip Williams, the Director of Public Relations for NASCAR. And Chip, what's the information?
Jerry and Bill, I regret to inform you that J.D. McDuffie has passed away. He's 53 years old. Of course, our hearts right now is with wife Ima Jean and his children, Jeff and Linda, and it's really a pretty sad day right now.
A terrible tragedy here at Watkins Glen. And of course, Chip, in the interest of safety, whenever there is a tragedy like that, you're always trying to find out possibly the cause of death to try to prevent this from happening in the future. Is there any information now as to what may have happened?
Well, right now, we don't know about the cause of death because of the autopsy is scheduled for in the morning. As far as what happened to the race car, it looks like a possibility of a wheel breaking loose. We're going to look into that. We're going to look at the race car and see what we can find out from there. Of course, we're not going to be able to do that until after the race.
A terrible tragedy here at Watkins Glen. And Chip Williams, thanks for coming out from NASCAR Control and giving us information. That was not what we wanted to hear, but unfortunately, that occurs in the sport of motorsports. Bob?
It is always difficult to report the death of any race driver. They know the dangers and the hazards, and
they choose to race because they love it so very much. J.D. McDuffie was in his 653rd Winston Cup race. He had never won a Winston Cup event. But just last night, ironically enough, at Owego, New York at Shangri-La Speedway, J.D. McDuffie was involved in a celebrity race. And J.D. McDuffie, driving the 07 car, believe it or not, took the checkered flag first and won that race just down the road from Watkins Glen International, where his career ended today. J.D. got out of the car with his son Jeff watching and received the applause and the congratulations of all of those in the grandstand. J.D. McDuffie leaves his wife Jean and 2 children, Jeff and Linda. And our sincere condolences to all of the McDuffie family from all of us here at ESPN.
Gene, I know exactly what you're going through, sweetheart. And you fans out there, you wonder how these guys can get in these cars and go back out and restart this race. Hey, it's their job. It's what they do. There's 100,000 people here this afternoon to watch them do that job. There's not a one of these drivers that wants to be in that race car right now. They want to be in the garage area, hugging their wife, their girlfriend, their mom, their crew members, whoever. I don't want to be here now. I want to be over there looking at Ned and looking at Bob and just not saying anything. But we've got a job to do, and that's to report to you who wins, who loses, and what happens during the day. Gene, we all love you, and we're sorry.
I was watching. I just got out of the hospital myself and was on the couch, my legs in casts, watching, and I was sad, obviously, but just even maybe sadder than anyone else because it kind of made me feel like my accident, which had happened in the exact same spot,
and it was very similar.
Made me feel lucky in certain ways, but it also I just thought that it was sad that that it had to happen. I look at it a little differently now. I still don't know what caused his, but racing will never be 100% safe. But I think we've gone too far in terms of sanitizing the tracks in the name of safety. And again, there's nothing wrong with making things safer, but if it changes the character of the racing, which I think we've gotten to with track limits and everything being paved and so forth, I personally think it's affected the actual, what the sport's like, which is not a good thing.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What is IMSA racing like compared to Trans Am?
They're back then. I'll go back to that time. They were similar. IMSA was more endurance oriented, where you had more of the races were long, 3, 6, 12, and 24-hour races with a few sprints. Whereas Trans Am was all 100-mile sprints. And so being a big guy, I preferred the sprint races because, getting in and out of sharing a seat with someone smaller and all that. I like them both, but Trans Am was more geared towards the short races. And then they didn't have a prototype class for the top category like IMSA did. So they were both big-time pro sports car series run by different groups with slightly different ideas. What ended up happening is the car companies who sponsored the teams would kind of play one against the other, and they'd be mad at the Trans Am people, and they'd say, we're going over to IMSA. And then they go over to IMSA, and sometimes they'd get mad at them and say, we're mad at you, we're going back to Trans Am. And so there was a lot of back and forth, and the drivers they went where the car companies were because that's who hired them and paid them. And so
sort of similar to Kart IndyCar, kind of, with IRL, kind of.
Similar. Similar.
Yeah. Who'd you drive for in IMSA in 1991?
91, that was Pratt & Miller. It was Chevrolet, but it was, it was Pratt & Miller who runs the Corvette team now.
Ah, okay. That's a pretty cool team from what I've read. And who's your favorite motorsports driver of all time if you had to pick one?
Wow, picking one. That's a tough one. Ayrton Senna. pick. I grew up sort of admiring him and idolizing him. And then, but I have to say, right up there, Dale Earnhardt Sr. I was fortunate enough to spend a lot of time with him and call him a friend.
Ooh.
But he was just like he was just the ultimate. He was like the hero of all the heroes. All the people that were doing it professionally all still looked up to him. He was just a bad dude. I mean, bad in a good way. He was just so tough, so intense, so aggressive, so talented. It wasn't just all aggression, the finesse and skill. He was like a real life superhero to me.
Yeah, and I've read on the internet some interviews from some drivers that said that when Earnhardt was on their back bumper and they saw in the mirror his sunglasses and his open-faced helmet, they were always intimidated because they knew what that meant.
Yeah, there's, and I actually, in a small way, got to experience a similar thing where your reputation does the work for you. When I won those Trans Am championships in a row, it was also a black car. It was number 11, but I could actually see that in people when you get close and start applying pressure, they would make mistakes more often than they would otherwise. And so you kind of smile to yourself. You can't earn that cheaply or quickly. You've got to, be on your game and tough and not give an inch and all that. But there's no question there was an intimidation factor. Everyone's human. It doesn't matter who they are and how much they've won. Everyone's human. And that managing those emotions is a big part, no different than everybody deals with in their daily life, whether it's with a boss or a customer or a spouse or someone that's a rival of yours or someone that's giving you a hard time. It's those are the same things everyone deals with. And human, in racing, even though you're a pros, you're also human.
Yeah, definitely. If I had to pick a favorite driver at the moment, for a number of years it was Jamie McMurray, who I met in 2015, but he retired last year, and so then I met his teammate Kyle Larson at the NASCAR race, and now he's become kind of my favorite.
Well, he's a good one. And Jamie too. Jamie's one of my favorites in terms of just, I like him as a person. He's got a great way about him and a good energy and treats people well.
Yeah.
So, but Larson's, he's tough, man. He's, to be as young as he is and as good as he is, he's in so many different cars. He's fun to watch.
Yeah, and last year when I met him, I encountered him while he was in line for a Porta-John, and it was kind of funny. Have you ever had a memory like that before where someone asks for a photo when you're in line for a Porta-John?
It's more conversations when you're in the men's room. Everyone's standing there, taking a leak, and sort of an awkward silence, and so sometimes conversations get struck up. So
yeah, and I was kind of on pit road at a time that I wasn't supposed to be. And so he had that look on his face as if to say, who is this guy, And I got a photo with him that I cherish forever, and I got it autographed earlier this year.
Good stuff.
Yeah. Was your career the same after your 1991 wreck, or did it go downhill after 1991?
It actually, when I came back with Chevy, it didn't go very well, the 92 season. And so it was a critical juncture, and Chevy was kind of saying, hey, we're not going to cut you loose. We feel bad, but we're also not going to really have you in a full-time ride. And so I said, I got to prove that I'm still good and not damaged. And so that's why the Roush opportunity, and ironically, Max Jones was the guy I mentioned that was my friend at Roush who I'd raced with. He vouched for me. He's now the team manager in Ganassi's Cup program, and so he was instrumental in bringing Larson on board there. So, but so that was so it could have gone downhill, and it didn't start off well. But from day one at Roush, things went well. I won the 24 Hours Daytona, my very first race with them. And then won 4 championships in 5 years. So it's funny, people that are younger and weren't around when I was driving assume that my accident either ended my career or it was downhill after. It was actually I I actually had arguably more success after than I did before.
Ah, that's really cool. I don't know a lot of people that probably know that. So yeah.
It was, especially when they see me hobbling around. I still limp a good bit, and so they have a hard time, understanding. But I had my last year in Trans Am. I won the 3 straight Trans Am titles, 95, 6, and 7. And the last year in 97, I won the first 11 races in a row. And so we were virtually unbeatable. And then that's the season I retired. So I retired after basically my best season, left on a high note.
All right. So yeah, my next one is, who ran Alan Kulwicki racing when you drove for the 17? Because didn't Alan pass away the year that you drove for them?
Yeah, he was killed in the plane crash on his way to Bristol, and as the reigning champion, which was, but Felix Ibadis was instrumental in that too, because he basically stepped in to help. I don't know if he was the administrator of the estate, but he basically stepped in to help operate the team and get them through that tough time. And so, with my my history with Felix, he hired me. He called and said, "Hey, we want you to run the 2 road races in the 7."
Ah, okay. So Felix Ibadis kind of influenced that a little bit?
Yeah, Paul Andrews was the crew chief and was operating the team, but Felix was kind of took charge in terms of the business side of it, and stabilizing it.
And yeah, and that's up until Jeff Bodine purchased the team, right?
Correct.
Okay. Who is your favorite team owner, if you had to pick one?
I've never been asked that question. So, I would say my favorite, something Jim Miller did, who's the Miller in Pratt & Miller, did something that I've not heard a lot of people doing and wouldn't do, but he did. And so when I had my accident, he came to see me in the hospital and he said, "Hey, there's a car waiting for you as soon as you are ready to come back." And I think a lot of owners do that.
Ooh.
But then what the key thing was, where the rubber met the road, was when I came back and then I was driving, Chevrolet we were supposed to run a full season, and they said we're only going to run 5 races. And Jim came to me and said, "I promised you we'd run, and I'll run." And that meant digging into his own pocket to the tune of about $5 million.
Wow.
And I just thought that was such a great gesture. It literally, a lot of people say they'll do it, but when all of a sudden it's going to cost you $5 million to do it, even if they haven't, a lot of people won't do that. Yeah. And so I said to him, "Jim, I appreciate that. That's the coolest thing anyone's ever done. But that shouldn't be your responsibility. I think that should be more Chevys. And so let's race with whatever money they provide, and we'll go from there." He said, "Okay." He says, "If you ever need help down the road, post racing or whatever," he says, "call me." And so he's a man of few words, but the words he says are good as gold.
That's nice. I've heard a similar thing about the former IndyCar driver Danny Ungaius. He was a person of gold, but he was also a man of few words as well, from what I've read.
Very few words.
Yeah, and he was like literally the only IndyCar driver that was, a private person rather than a public person.
True story. Very true.
And he was like the only IndyCar driver that almost never granted interviews. And that's like a reporter's worst nightmare for motorsports,
Yeah, he was fortunate. The guy that he drove for, Ted Field, was really wealthy and wanted him to drive and didn't need him to do any of the other stuff. So they were a match made in heaven.
Yeah. Did you ever meet any legendary sports car team owners like Penske or Dan Gurney?
Yes, both. I met them, and Dan Gurney became a good friend. He was. I never drove for him, but came close once, but never drove for him. But he was just one of my favorite people. Just so interesting, so multidimensional. I mean, racing was only one part of him. Just really open-minded and curious, and just had a great way with people. You know, everyone that interacted with him, he made them feel special when they left. And so, yeah, Gurney was definitely a hero of mine.
Yeah, and he literally drove everything. Formula One, IndyCar, NASCAR. In fact, he was like the first road course ringer to win a cup race, if I remember right.
Yeah, I mean, it was more than just a ringer. It was almost not fair. When he drove, it was like, oh, we know who's winning this one.
Played war. Tragically, Weatherly died instantly in the crash. On the restart, Petty once again takes the lead with Gurney's second and McDonald third. Transmission failure puts Petty out on lap 101. A.J. Foyt tries to get by Marvin Panch. Foyt crashes in turn 1 and is out on lap 151. Gurney looks unbeatable. Panch is holding steady in second. Gurney brings his Wood Brothers Ford under the checkered flag. Marvin Panch finishes second and Roberts gives Ford a clean sweep in third. Gurney wins 2 Riverside 500s in a row.
Yeah, because didn't he win like 5 consecutive Riverside races for the Wood Brothers?
I know it was several. And now part of the thing, and this is how he won the 67 Le Mans too, back then the cars basically wouldn't take, you couldn't go flat out the whole time.
Yeah.
And a racer's nature is to go as fast as you can. And so he had a way of understanding basically what the car could take and what it couldn't. And had the discipline to actually not go faster than that, which is easier said than done when everybody else is racing and you know you're faster than them and they're driving away from you.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of discipline, more than almost any of them have, to not push harder than that. And so, and just in the road races, the technique of how to make the gearbox survive with finesse was part of making it last, not just sensing how hard you can drive, but also taking care of it by how you shifted the gears and matched the revs and all that stuff. He was in his own league.
That's interesting. What Indy 500 do you enjoy watching over and over again, if you had to pick one?
Protagonist pit. No yellow flag. No, that's good. 4 laps to go. Sam, listen. It's 2.9 seconds. Mears is closing and closing fast.
Yeah, he is. There's no question about it. He's able to take it incredibly. There's Johncock starting to take an unbelievably low ride. I'm starting to wonder if Johncock's handling is all it should be, Jim, because that's not where he runs on the racetrack when everything is okay. He runs above the white line. I just saw him dip way down below it. He's doing it again. Oh, well, they make a pass there. Okay, but Johncock, I think, is behaving a little. He's really pushing it. That's what I'm trying to say.
Is there time left for Mears to catch him? Very, very doubtful. But it sure isn't over yet.
Well, there it is.
They give him 3. We get less than that. We get about 2.5.
Okay, I don't think.
Well, now, you don't need to measure seconds. You can see them.
You see it now. Will traffic be a problem? One of the Winningtons is ahead of them at this stage. Remember, if Mears catches him, he's still going to have to pass him.
Sam, we've got a trophy dash to the finish line. If this stays this way, there's never been anything like it. The closest finish in the history of Indianapolis was in 1937, 2.16 seconds. There's Dina Mears. Her man is the man that's closing on the leader.
Yep. Look at Mears pour it on, Jim. I know when you're this close, I mean, you can reach out, you can feel that guy ahead of you. And look at Mears now. Here's Johncock taking a fairly moderate line, and Mears
mean, this is extremely dangerous business right here.
I don't think I've ever seen an open wheel car race with people this close at the finish.
No, and never so fast. I mean, these laps in the high 190.
Look at this.
Dina there. All right.
He may do it.
Yeah, he may. He's that close. Look at that shallow line.
They're going to get the white flag. There'll be one lap to go as he moves along. Johncock. Is he going to do it? The white flag out. This is the final lap.
Going down into the first turn. What? No. Gordon held him off there going into that first turn.
Over the roar of the engines, you can hear the 400,000 people going hoarse.
All right.
No one has ever seen this before at Indianapolis.
This is the back straight, Jim. There's 2 turns to go now. Mears behind, and he's again trying to slipstream it.
Johncock did a good job of staying ahead of him in turn 1 when he made that move there.
Good. That was brilliant. That was brilliant.
Not quite over. Johncock still with the lead.
Here it comes
Headed
again.
for the finish line. He's still closing. That's his wife.
It's too late now. You only got to pray. Look at that.
There you see them. Mears. Can he make a move at the finish? He's making a move. No, not quite. Gordon Johncock has won the Indianapolis 500. He won it by less than a car length. Less than a car length after 500 miles. The disappointed wife of Rick Mears there. Wow. The jubilation in the pits, the Pat Patrick pits. Gordon Johncock has won it. He held on in the closest finish in the history of the Indianapolis 500. 66 races. Never anything like this. That's Roger Penske's wife, Kathy, consoling Dina Mears. Well,
what could you say to somebody after that?
I guess we did get carried away, Sam, but
well,
somebody else might be able to help it. I could.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
Jim, it's the victory of a great racing driver who made a great racing move.
Let's look at that finish again.
All right. Well, here is.
It looks like he's beaten at this point, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Coming out of the last turn.
Yep, there's nothing but frustration there.
Now watch this. Making the move as they come to the finish line. There's Mears moving up, and it was just a little over a car length, about 20 feet. Let's go to Bill Fleming.
Car owner Roger Penske has just talked to Rick Mears. Rick, I know it's kind of tough even to concentrate. Have you ever been in a better duel than that?
No, I haven't. That was a good race. It really was. Gordy was doing a hell of a job. He had her everywhere but straight a couple times, and I was trying my damnedest to get him, and I just couldn't do it.
Overshaw. Now to Chris.
Okay, Gordy, you're the calmest guy in victory lane. Those final laps were the finest racing I've seen in all my life. What were you thinking of when your mirror started to fill up with mirrors?
Well, I was worried. I mean, let's put it that way. There was no question about it. I had to drive the car everywhere on the racetrack. I got into a pushing problem, you know, with about 10 laps to go. It's why he caught me so fast. And the more I went, the worse it got, and I just had to use up all the apron to be able to stay full throttle coming out of the corner to keep from driving into the fence.
What did you think of on the white flag lap when he pulled alongside right at the finish line? You think he had you there?
Well, I definitely thought so, but I knew there was one thing, that when I went down in the number 1 corner, that I wasn't about to back off no matter what happened. If we went through there side by side, that's the way we'd go through there, but I wasn't about to back
It really depends on who's running third at this point. I think if the two Ganassi cars keep playing nice with each other up to the end, they're guarding the position. So maybe, like you said, you'd be better off if you're leading that last lap. Now he's going to pass him again, and it's a clean pass.
And does he get him by the stripe? Yes, he does. So it can be done.
That sure is calling it close.
It was close.
Well, he wasn't defending that time, Marty. I can assure you, when you're coming out of 4, you're going to be moving around the racetrack.
And you can move a little bit, maybe in turn 3. You can move a little bit coming off of 4.
Takuma Sato trying to get up closer.
Now Frankitti's got a problem with Sato, and he's guarding the position.
Now will he try and go for the pass? This time by, there will be 2 laps remaining.
Sato's car, I don't think has his nudge down for us because he certainly seems to slide mid-turn.
I think he's got
going down the straight.
Now 2. You heard the call. Here comes Dario. And Sato may try and come with him. Look out. This could get tricky. Oh, and he slides on by. Sato takes second.
And Kanan is going to make a run on him now.
So Franchitti out in front, Takuma Sato in second, there's Dixon, and then Tony Kanaan. On board with Tony. If he wants a shot, he's got to get some help up front. He's too far back right now. Next time by, the white flag.
I think Sato's in the catbird position now.
Time it right. You have to time it right. Everybody standing, listen to the crowd.
White flag is out. Dario Franchitti takes the defensive line into one. Sato taking a peek.
Inside. Keep going. Keep going, buddy. Yellow.
The yellow is out. Should have waited till coming out of 2. We talked about that.
We talked about his patience. And for the 3rd time in his career, Dario Franchitti is going to win the 500, and all 3 times it's going to be under caution.
This is a race where you cannot make a mistake. That was very hard. Sato was close, but I think he got on that white line again.
He did.
Tony Kanaan is going to finish 3rd. Remember, results are not official. We'll get word from IndyCar. But right now, here they come down the front straightaway. And Dario Franchitti is going to join an elite group as he is going to become a 3-time winner at Indianapolis.
What a race. What a race.
You are the man.
Oh, that's a good question, too. The one that stands out in my mind was Rick Mears and Gordon Johncock when he came up just short. I don't know what year that was. It was like 82, maybe.
It was 82, yeah.
Okay. And now another one, though, I have to admit that I think Dario Franchitti's win, where he battled Takuma Sato at the end, I think you just have a natural tendency to think more highly of old races. You know, there's nostalgia.
Yeah.
You know, you don't think when you're a kid. But I think that drive by Dario and that finish and that'll go down. That's that might be the greatest Indy 500 win for my money.
Yeah, and not only that, but that was, he was Dan Wheldon's, literally best friend on the track. And seeing him dedicate that win to Dan Wheldon, that was pretty cool.
For the 3rd time in his racing career, Dario Franchitti slips the wreath around his neck. He will take the kiss from the festival queen, and he will have an opportunity to drink the milk as presented by Dave Forgy from the American Dairy Association. Dario Franchitti wins the Indy 500 for the third time. Dario, you're wearing the white glasses as his wife Ashley comes in to give him a kiss. It has been such an emotional year for not just Dario, but this entire team. Michael Wanzer, the chief strategist for Dario Franchitti, or Barry Wanzer, the chief strategist for Dario. His son Michael passed away earlier this year, and now Dario, on the heels of all that has happened this year, what does it mean to win the Indianapolis 500 today?
I just want to dedicate this to two of Indianapolis' finest, Dan Wheldon and Michael Wanzer. Thank you to all the fans for saluting our buddy Dan today. Oh man, what a race. What a race. I think DW would be proud of that one, just coming from the back there. And that last lap, running side by side with Takuma. I went down and I moved up to give him the room, and then we hit, and I just kept the foot and managed to keep it out of trouble. But thank you to this Target team and my buddy Scott Dixon. And I was looking there at the pole and I was thinking, I don't know who the heck's going to win it, but everybody up there was a friend of Dan's, and I think that about sums it up. Everybody loved Dan.
Yes, it was. Dan was a special guy.
I don't know if anyone, I don't think I've ever told anyone this, but my dad, when we lived in Colorado, he had a friend that attended the IndyCar race where Wheldon died. And basically, we got an invitation to go to the race with him like about a month in advance of it happening. And although we were very tempted, we had to decline. But he ended up going, and I watched the race on television, and after the wreck happened, I shut it off to kind of go make myself some food because I knew it was going to be a long red flag. And I got a message from the coworker like 15 minutes later, saying Wheldon didn't make it,
Air created by 34 cars. But right now, the position he's in, he actually has a small advantage because everybody else is opening the air up in front of him. And here we go.
Trouble, contact, and a huge crash. Up in turn number 2. Oh, multiple cars involved. Oh, my. It looks like Dan Wheldon may be involved in it.
And Eddie, you and I spoke about this morning on the drive-in. Just this amount of cars, the speed, just the chance for what they call the big one.
And what happens in conditions like that, when you're even...
No contact right there.
Now he's trying to go from the low side to the high, from the high side down low to get going for the turn.
Oh.
And what ends up happening is that he gets stuck back up there, turned around, tried to take another move going down, guys, and the back end started to come around, and that started the chain reaction.
He was uncomfortable being on the top lane, and he tried, like you said, there's the car. Now there's 2 cars that are airborne. This puts Wheldon racing in perspective. This is the horrible accident that everybody has always hoped would never occur.
And as we said, 15 cars we now know of involved.
Bird's eye view of everything from here.
And as we heard her say earlier in this telecast that she thought things were just getting a little bit crazy. She had eased off the throttle, not something that race car drivers do, but she just felt uncomfortable, had something about it, a sixth sense, if you will, and turned around and just gave herself a little bit more breathing space, which is something that worked out very well for her.
Charlie Kimball's view, he was in the middle lane, had nowhere to go.
And a car went right over the top of him.
And there's another car flying over the top.
And literally, I've been in these accidents. There's nothing you can do. Once it starts to happen, the momentum has to just play itself out.
As we salute Dan Wheldon.
Yeah, that's the side of the sport that's so painful. I worked with Dan about a month before that, filming a TV show, and we'd exchanged some text messages like on the day or two before, and he just had this infectious enthusiasm, and like he was like a little kid. He was just so playful and fun and funny. So
yeah,
they all hurt, but that one hurt a lot.
Yeah, and I'm kind of glad that I didn't go to that race because, you know, it was canceled in the aftermath of the wreck, and that would have been like a waste of a lot of money. You know what I mean?
Well, that too. So
Yeah, and, you know, yeah, that would have been a lot of money going down the drain. But yeah, that was just a part of the sport. And it kind of reminded me of the death of Dale Earnhardt because the reaction was so similar, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, I mean, racing has gotten so safe, thankfully.
Yeah.
It used to happen with some frequency, and now it happens so rarely. When it does happen, it's all the more shocking. And so,
yeah, because you're not used to it.
That's part of it.
So what is racing at Riverside like?
What was racing at Riverside like?
Oh yeah, what was my mistake?
No longer possible.
Yeah, okay.
It was awesome. There was no place like it. You know, with those. One thing is just nothing but dirt, but and the dust clouds and so forth. But just it was one of the very first tracks. I think it was the first track I drove an actual car on. I drove go-karts before that. So
yeah.
Again, I have a fondness for it because it was the first track I raced on. But it was really unusual with the S's and the tight corners, a little bit of elevation change, and then even though it was a road course, to have turn 9 be basically like half of an oval. There was really nothing else like it.
That's kind of like Mexico City, the racetrack south of the border that NASCAR used to be at. That's also half a road course and half an oval. Have you ever raced on any Canadian racetracks or any Mexican racetracks like that?
No Mexican racetracks, but I have raced on several in Canada. Toronto Street Race, Mosport, or Canadian Tire Motorsports Park now, used to be called Mosport, and then Trois-Rivières, which is a street course in Quebec. That was one of my favorite street courses. And they've been racing there, I want to say, for close to 45 years. It's one of the older street courses in the world, and I've raced. Yes. The short answer is yes, I've raced in a number of Canadian tracks.
Yeah. What is racing at Sonoma like?
Tough. There's probably more elevation change there than any other track in North America that I can think of. I mean, maybe there's more from an actual number of feet standpoint with Laguna Seca, but it's more undulating up, down at Sonoma. So you've got a lot of corners that are blind where you come into the corner and you can't see the exit and the blind exits where it's hard enough to thread the needle and go to the last inch of the track when you can see it. But when you can't see it, you have all the trouble that usually comes in terms of balancing the car and the power and the tire wear and the aerodynamics, to use every inch of road. But when you can't even see where the edge of the road is, it's needless to say, it's a whole other level.
Yeah, and what is Mosport like compared to Watkins Glen?
The long course at Watkins Glen is they're similar in terms of their long distance-wise. They're both fast. Mosport's really fast compared to the long course. The first half of the Glen is fast, but they're similar. They're undulating. They're really demanding. They're a little bit dangerous. All of which makes for a good track in my book.
Yeah. One thing I've heard is Ron Fellows, the road course ringer that was achieving all those Busch races and truck races in NASCAR, he said that part of the reason that he did so well at Watkins Glen was because of his experience driving at Mosport.
That makes some sense. Yeah, no, they're definitely similar.
Yeah, because Ron, he won most of his NASCAR races at the Glen.
How many did he win total?
Well, for trucks, he won twice, and for Busch, he won 4 races, with one of them being at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve and the others being at the Glen. And he almost won a couple Cup races at Sonoma in 2001 as well as 2003.
Well, he is definitely the most successful ringer because
definitely.
That's 6 NASCAR wins is nothing to scoff at.
And he probably one year he drove for Dale Earnhardt's team, and it was the one Pennzoil car, and he literally spanked everyone at Sonoma, only to lose, because of a caution that came out with like 20 to go.
As we've said before, the fastest part of the speedway into that turn 10 area, and it's so easy to overdrive that turn and get off.
Yeah, he only lost 2 or 3 positions, but I'm going to tell you, the battle for the lead between these 2 teammates, Robbie Gordon in the 31, Kevin Harvick in the 29, we're right past halfway, and it's starting to heat up.
Don't forget who cost, well, I don't know if he cost him or not, but anyway, he affected the outcome of the race here a couple of years ago, was when Kevin Harvick got into a race. He was a lap down with his teammate there.
Whoa, 3 ways!
Ron Fellows is going to take advantage, and he's going to take the lead.
How about that? Ron Fellows took advantage of both Robbie Gordon and Kevin Harvick.
Yeah, I just hope that Ron didn't get any damage on that left rear tire, because they did make some pretty heavy contact right there.
And the biggest fear is catching a foul stem, knocking air out of the tires. But since they don't have an inner liner, they're running that foul stem on the inside of the wheel.
Watch this one car, the yellow car.
Kevin Harvick couldn't keep his car down. Ron Fellows took advantage of both of them.
Green flag, green flag, green flag, green flag. Single file restart. And Kevin Harvick wants Ron Fellows coming up the hill, and he may get him.
I don't know, Ron is pretty darn good. That's the kind of stuff that he can do so well.
Boy, Harvick had the momentum, Darrell, as they went to turn 1, but
tell you what, if Harvick can stay with Ron Fellows, he's doing a yeoman's job, because Ron is smooth.
But you know, when I look at our top 5, Darrell, and you and I were talking about this earlier, Kevin Harvick, Robbie Gordon, Wallace, a little off-road excursion. All around. But Robbie Gordon, Kevin Harvick, and Boyd all ran that race yesterday.
All that dust is causing these guys a problem coming down the hill there to turn 4.
Yeah, he was running in the 9th position.
I think he probably got caught up in some of that delayed reaction. So both of our point contenders, Matt Kenseth and Dale Jr., both have had a bit of an excursion so far. Matt, with his flat tire, didn't hurt him too badly, but this is going to put Jr. way back.
Well, look at Jr. now. He's hustling the car up and over these curbs, and that may take its toll. Here's Robbie on the inside of his teammate Harvick.
Now, Dave Blaney, who was running up in 9th, now he's back in 39th, 1 lap down, just after that being a victim up there a while ago in turn 7.
Meanwhile, Ron Fellows runs out in front of this pack uncontested. He's opened up 5.5 seconds on Boris Said. The cars between Fellows and Said have pitted, and Matt Kenseth, the point leader, is up to 3rd. NASCAR Winston Cup Racing on Fox is brought to you by Dodge. You can take life as it comes, or you can grab life by the horn. New Quaker State, the power to reduce friction. And Pepsi-Cola, experience the joy of Pepsi. Caution is out. Once again, this will be the 5th one of the day. Christian Fittipaldi backed it into the tire wall. You see there on the outside of turn number 10. And the Cheerios Dodge headed for pit road thereafter. That is not one of his tires. That's from the soft wall barrier there.
Now, Larry, Ron Fellows, our leader, has not been to pit road. So obviously he's going to have to come to pit road. But I ask you this. All the guys that have been to pit road, can they make it from here on fuel?
Yes, they can. That's the reason they've been on pit road. And I don't mean to make a bold statement. With this many laps to go, that caution just cost Ron Fellows this race.
There's no
and
question.
Boris Said.
If he'd have come to pit road 1 lap ago, he'd be in the catbird seat.
And it's not good for Matt Kenseth, who's running in 3rd right now, points leader. We know he has to come to pit road. Now, if you were not to your fuel window yet, different story. But if you were, Let me tell you something. You hadn't been to pit road, you have a sick feeling in your stomach.
Yeah,
right
I
now.
saw Mark come back in and top up. So I think that was what I was wondering in the case here, where if some of these guys are going to at least have to come to pit road to top up.
Fine.
That's right.
Pit stops. Ron Fellows, Boris Said lead them onto pit road, along with Matt Kenseth, Kurt Busch, Todd Bodine, McMurray, and Marlin. Here's Dick.
Matt Kenseth and his crew chief, Robbie Reiser, have been in conversation about who might be able to make it all the way of the cars that have already pitted. They decided only the 20 cars.
And that forced him to make a pit stop. Yeah. So yeah, he's pretty good at both. He's pretty good at any racetrack that's a road course.
He is. I always tell people that I raced against Ron a ton in Trans Am, all of my Trans Am championships, actually except the last one were against him. And so I always cite him as the most complete. The guy that, if I had to pick one guy that was the most complete, there were a lot of guys that were good in certain areas, but he was just, he was the best, most well-rounded competitor that I ever raced against.
That's really interesting. And what is Watkins Glen like compared to Sonoma?
Quite a bit different. You know, if you compare the NASCAR tracks, which is the short course of the Glen and Sonoma, they're both, you know, they're both undulating. They're both, the Glen is faster than Sonoma.
Yeah.
And Sonoma's configuration has changed a couple different times. You know, they couldn't look more different because Sonoma's, you know, it's always the brown hills and the dirt and
all the turns.
Green. The Glen is a lot harder on brakes, and that used to be a big factor before the brakes got as good as they are. You really had to not overcook the brakes. Where it was hard to cook the brakes in Sonoma. So different.
Really interesting. And who do you think is the best modern day NASCAR driver if you had to pick one?
The best modern day NASCAR driver. Oh boy. I mean, Jimmy Johnson's record speaks for itself.
Definitely.
He's having, at the tail end of his career here, he's having a tough time getting the W's and so forth. But he and Chad Knaus literally changed the game. I mean, the level they ran at, the way they approached things, and the kind of performance they achieved forced everybody to literally redo how they did things. They forced the series, I think, to change the format, to the playoff format because they were tired of him winning. I don't think that was the only factor, but I think that was a factor.
Yeah, just like how they changed the starts for Busch and Truck when Kyle Busch was winning all those races.
Yep. I think you'd have to say, Kyle Busch kind of stands out where he's just, he's a factor almost every single race. The great thing about NASCAR, though, is it's not 5 or 6 guys that are real, what I like to say, gunslingers, really, really, really at the top of their game. It's 25, which is and it's clear how hard it is to win one of those races. So, I mean, but I guess if you had to pick one guy right now, you'd have to say Kyle Busch. Yeah.
And I would probably add Johnson onto that list as well because both of them are probably equal as far as how good they are. It's just Jimmy has won more championships than Busch has a little bit. So yeah, I'd probably put Johnson on that list as well.
Yeah, I think Jimmy will go down. I don't think he gets proper appreciation for how the level of performance. I mean, in part of his personality, if Jimmy was acted like Kyle Busch, he probably would. It's weird how it works. If you're a nice guy and you're kind of polite, don't make waves, you don't get the credit as the brash guys. It's interesting how it works, but seeing Jimmy Johnson race, you could make a strong case for the greatest of all time. To have the kind of dominance he has when there are so many guys that are capable just puts him on a pedestal in terms of overall career, the best career ever, I think.
Yeah.
All things considered. And then, but currently, if you had to pick a guy,
Yeah, and yeah, both of them have different personalities, you know. Jimmy Johnson, you know, has kind of like a low-key personality a little bit, and Kyle Busch, you know, he can get riled up, you know. Personalities are kind of different.
Yeah.
Have you ever raced at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve?
I have not raced there, no.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite NASCAR races for a number of years because that was literally the most unpredictable race that NASCAR probably ever had. Yeah.
I've been there, and I've driven on the track, but never raced there.
Yeah. Did you see all those NASCAR races that were hosted back when Marcus Ambrose was dominating those races and how it was so unpredictable? You know what I mean?
I'm sorry, say that again. Someone's texting me right now, and I was distracted. Say that again.
Did you see all those NASCAR races back in the like late 2010s or early 2010s or whatever it is, where there was so unpredictable of who was going to win the race? You had Marcus Ambrose, you know, leading the most laps almost every time, and then it would come down to drivers like Kevin Harvick or Boris Said or other drivers. Did you see all those?
I sure did, yes.
Yeah, that was the one race that I really wish wasn't taken out of the calendar because it was so unpredictable.
Well, you just hit on one of the main ingredients to good racing, and it's unpredictable drama.
Yeah, and if I had to pick a current NASCAR race that's similar to that, it would have to be Road America because that's an unpredictable race as well.
Yeah, I mean the nature of things with the restarts and cautions breeding cautions, and it being hard to pass, all those things are kind of a volatile mix for sure.
Yeah. What was your reaction to learning on the tragic crash at the end of Daytona in 2001 that killed Dale Earnhardt? What was your reaction on that?
Got a couple of corporate teammates, Waltrip and Earnhardt Jr. Then the man who owns those cars, Dale Earnhardt.
This crowd is on their feet. They want to see the finish of the Daytona 500. They'll look at the white flag.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. right behind him, then Dale Earnhardt nose to tail. The front two have a breakaway of about a car length. Three wide behind, halfway down the back straightaway.
Michael Waltrip showing the muscle. Everything stacks up from third on back. Dale Earnhardt gets turned sideways. He'll take Schrader. Earnhardt and Schrader are in the wall. Waltrip leads off four.
Coming down to the finish, though.
Michael Waltrip trying to hold off Dale Earnhardt Jr. in 463 tries. Finally,
Michael Waltrip is going to win.
A NASCAR Winston Cup race winning
the Daytona 500, the biggest of them all.
Sitting directly in front of me, the Ken Schrader car and the Dale Earnhardt car. Schrader now very quickly calling over for the medical crews to come to attend and check on Dale Earnhardt.
Well, in hot pursuit of Dale Earnhardt Jr., they don't know anything yet about your father. Tell us about those last few laps.
Well, I was trying to stay behind Michael and see what happened at the end. But they had a big wreck back there, so they didn't have no help. So Michael won his first race. I'm glad for DEI for finishes 1 and 2 today. Pretty cool.
That's Dale Earnhardt Jr., who's going to the care center. He's trying to check on his father. He comes home second. Dale Earnhardt Sr. has been transported to the Halifax hospital, but no word on his condition one way or the other.
just devastated.
Yeah.
It was hard to process. I went to his funeral, and again, it had been so safe for so long, and for the toughest, strongest, most capable guy, I looked around at his funeral and I saw a bunch of scared race car drivers,
Yeah.
And it was just, I was devastated. He was really good to me personally, and it was just, it was so hard to process also because it looked so, compared to on the grand scheme of things, the spectrum of crashes, it didn't look that bad. And so, it doesn't matter how it looked though. The outcome was what it was. It was just, I just watched, there's a new film that's about to be released, talking about Michael Waltrip.
Yeah.
His path with DEI and having literally the highest moment of his life and the lowest seconds apart.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I felt when I graduated from high school, because I kind of graduated, in pretty much the lowest year of my life. And so I was happy, but I was also kind of, disappointed at the same time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's a weird thing and hard to make sense of. But that's human. That's being human.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's not neat. It's not clean.
Yeah. How many races did you win in IMSA?
Something like all total, probably 20 something, just over maybe 20, 21, if I had to guess. I don't know offhand.
I'll have to look that up to see, but yeah, I'll go with 20 for now, since you would know, so yeah. How many races have you won in Trans Am?
Trans Am is also, I want to say it's 28. I think it's 28, 27, 28, somewhere. When I stopped, it was like one or two short of Mark Donahue's record. So.
And Mark Donohue, he was like Penske's first big star in his racing career.
Correct.
That's pretty cool to have a similar amount of wins like him.
Well, and most of the records that I set in Trans Am were held by him. And so when I won those 11 races in a row, he had the longest record of Trans Am wins before. It was 8 in a row. And so it was actually at Watkins Glen where I broke that record and won my 9th. The record for most poles he held before I broke it. But that one, and then most championships he had 3, and then I finally got 4. So I was kind of chasing his stuff the whole time, and that was one I never got. So he's still ahead of me on the all-time win list.
Interesting. Did you see the Daytona race in 2006 or on television where sports car driver Boris Said nearly won with his own Cup team at the time? Did you see that?
Casey Mears fourth, Kurt Busch fifth, Jamie McMurray sixth. They will green flag this race with 3 laps to go. Now, they were telling Morissette that Tony Stewart was laying back. I don't know. Stewart's got to go a ways to catch Morissette now.
That's going to be borderline on that 38 car. He was definitely below the yellow line.
Below the yellow line. He would like to give that spot back, Larry, but he can't.
No, they're breathing down his neck.
Morissette comes off turn 2 with a big lead. But that's not good.
If somebody jumps out, here you go. This is what's good right here. If these guys behind you will start racing.
But I guarantee you, Tony Stewart in that 20 car, he knows he can't get far off the bottom, but he's going to have to go to the top if he wants to go around Morissette. Boris puts a block on him. There comes Kyle Busch in the back of the bottom. He's going to push Boris.
2 laps to go.
Now here's where Boris might be a little bit nervous.
Said and Stewart side by side. Stewart has help.
2 to go.
How would you like to be at least to turn it off into the infield right down there, but you're running 190 mile an hour? You can't.
It's one to go. And the Bush boys are in hot pursuit.
And here comes Matt Kenseth in that 17 car on the high side. He's getting help from his teammate McMurray in the 26.
Kenseth has never won here, but he's taking the long way around on the outside.
And just remember, it gets really tense coming down the back right here. You start blocking in turn 3.
Caution is out. Caution is out. Will we go to overtime or will the checkered flag wave?
That's it. We were in a white flag lap.
We took the white flag.
The field is frozen at the moment of caution. The yellow flag waves as they come toward the finish line. Tony Stewart and the Home Depot Chevrolet will score the second win of 2006 and the 26th career victory for Stewart.
Here he goes. I can see him look up and say, how high is this fence anyway?
He scaled that thing pretty rapid.
Oh, he did. That's what winning will do for you.
Tony Stewart climbs the fence and captures the flag.
Yes. Nice job, Burnie. The smoker.
That is his signature salute to the fans of this sport.
I think there's a lot of reasons he's happy about this right here, because when you look back at his last 6 races, he has only had one top 10 finish.
Well, and Larry, think about this. He's won 4 of the next 6 races, and counting tonight. Last year he won 4 of the last 6 races, counting tonight. So this is his time, baby.
Who you need to go with, and in the end, he captured the flag, and like a rock star in the mosh pit, Tony mixing it up with some folks and some fans and his crew, almost looking like an NFL team here, helping to get him through the crowd. Here's a guy who had a broken shoulder blade. Remember, needed a relief driver in one stretch, toughed it out, and is back in victory lane at the Pepsi 400.
Coach said, give him the ball, and they've got it.
We had a record, a Pepsi 400 record, 15 different leaders, 29 lead changes. Late, Boris said had that lead. Looked like he might pull it off. Let's check in with Boris Said and Matt Yokel.
The most popular guy on pit road, Chris Myers, is Boris Said. What does this mean for you and this team, only 2 races under your belt?
It's awesome. I mean, it just says so much about the quality stuff we have at the Sobe No Fear Energy Drink Racing Team. Got great sponsors with Dollar General coming on board for a few races. Frank Stoddard did a great job leading these guys. We got great resources back at the shop. The guys that put this body on at Roush Racing, you know, they're the real heroes in this. And the guys
what about the driver? You got a heck of a drive from the back.
I just held it wide open those last 15 laps, and anyone could have done that in this car. But the engine was awesome. Everyone at Roush Yates, I appreciate it. It's the best equipment I've ever been in, and it's the highlight of my racing career. And I just feel like Rocky Balboa in the 15th round. I feel like I won. And hopefully we can get some momentum, get our fans out there to start backing our Sobe No Fear energy drink, and stop buying Red Bull and those other nonsense brands. And if we sell more cases, we're going to do more races. So that's our motto.
Going to try to do more races. He felt like it was a win. Now let's go to victory lane and Dick Berggren.
I sure did.
Yeah, that was probably the closest that any road course ringer came to winning a cup race, because he was literally leading with a few laps to go. And what was your reaction when you saw him leading that race at Daytona?
Well, I mean, I've known Boris since I guess it was the late '80s, and we were teammates and stuff. So I was cheering, of course. And couldn't believe it. I actually just saw Boris this last week at an event back in Massachusetts, even though we're both from California. So it was just so unlikely. You just couldn't believe it was going to happen, but it kept continuing and it kept going. And then so I was cheering for him like crazy and watching with anticipation.
Yeah, and I really believe that if the rain hadn't hurt a lot of his starts on a number of occasions, I really believe that his team, and if the economy had not, struggled, I really believe that his team would have eventually started running full-time because they had the strongest support from Jack Roush, his team did.
Yeah, that was quite possible.
Yeah.
Racing is full of what ifs, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's probably something we'll never know for sure. But that was probably the closest Boris came to winning, and that would have been big if it happened.
At Daytona, yes, indeed.
Yeah. What is racing V8 supercars like? Because didn't you make a start at Bathurst years ago?
I did. I made a start and then finished. I was the first American to ever finish Bathurst, and I think I'm still the highest finishing American. I finished, I think it was seventh, and seventh or eighth, seventh maybe. It was awesome. I that was a goal of mine. I followed it as closely as I could. There wasn't back then. It's hard to remember what things were like pre-internet, but you didn't have all the information you have now, and so that was early internet. So, but I read everything I could about it, and I really wanted to do it. And that was able to put that together with Ford. That track, the cars are cool. I mean, they're about as cool a formula. They've got everything about right. They look good, they sound good, they race well. They relate to the cars they're supposed to be. It's just almost like the perfect formula. But then you add Bathurst itself, which is this, talk about elevation change. It makes the elevation change at Sonoma or Laguna Seca look tame. It's you just go, you're up a mountain and then you go over the top and then you're down a mountain. It's probably the wildest track I've ever driven. And so you add all that together, it was heaven and the biggest challenge probably I've ever had.
Yeah, because racing those cars is kind of different from, American racing because they're in Australia and you kind of don't know the area until you go there for the first time. Know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, everything away from the track is different. The food's different. The hotels are different. You drive on the wrong side of the road. The hardest thing on the track was also different, was the cars were right-hand drive with left-hand shift. And so shifting as a racer, by that point in my career, you literally never gave it a second thought. It just happened automatically. It was so practiced. Whereas driving an H pattern, shifting with the left hand, you had to think about literally every shift and being on the right side of the car. So it was really, really hard.
Yeah, I bet. What was racing for Joe Falk like in your last Cup start? Because didn't you drive for Joe Falk's team in your last Cup start?
I think maybe technically it was, but it was brokered by someone else. So it wasn't like I was really driving for Joe Falk. I think I think that was another Felix Ibadis deal.
Okay.
What year was that? 98?
I believe it was 90. No, wait. In 98. I think it might have been 99. Because in 98, I believe you drove the 46 car for Felix again at the Glen.
Well, my memory is slipping. So
Yeah, I'm literally a racing historian.
That's clear.
Yeah. But yeah, the team I believe was called LJ Racing, which stands for, I believe it stands for Joe's Business, Little Joe's Racing.
Yeah, it's not. Again, I don't remember exactly how that deal went together. So, and it obviously was not terribly memorable. I hope they're not listening because that'll make them feel bad. But,
yeah, because I believe that you finished like 43rd in that race. And that was kind of like, I believe you dropped out early on. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's not a good memory or not a memorable one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Have you ever raced with Robbie Gordon before? What was he like when you were racing?
I raced with him in IROC mostly, and all racers are sort of self-centered, and they think the world, myself included, revolves around them.
Yeah.
But Robbie probably takes it to another level.
Yeah.
So, he's a talented guy, but it's like he's his own. Well, I guess we're all our own worst enemy, but it's like the thing that is most attractive about him is also his fatal flaw, where he can't help himself in terms of sometimes some of the stuff he does. So,
yeah.
But he's really fun to watch. We had a couple run-ins that are related to that. He's really hard-headed,
Yeah.
You hear about give and take in racing, and then with Robbie, I guess I shouldn't single him out, but it just seems like he took it to a different level.
Like to an extreme level, right?
Well, I'll tell the story. The one that stands out. It was Michigan IROC, and it was 90. I think it was probably 96 or so. And I had run really well at Michigan the year before, and this was another one. And so I was coming from the back of the pack, and I was passing him on the outside, which I had figured out. I think he was racing Indy cars at the time. I can't remember if he was NASCAR. He had more Indy cars. And so he hadn't spent as many laps in practice. And so I was on the outside of him, which is where you wanted to be. And eventually I was going to, when the tires wore, we ran side by side for like 2 or 3 laps. And he figured out that I was eventually going to end up in front of him the way it was going. And so we got to turn one once, and he just didn't turn. He just, he basically didn't, just ran me way up the track into the gray. And then obviously he got, I had to back off, almost crashed, and then he just went on. And so I spent the whole rest of the race trying to get back to his bumper to put him back, and I didn't. And so I got into it with him a little bit afterwards, and he's like, he didn't see a single thing wrong with it because it's what he needed to do. The fact that it ruined my race didn't even register on his list. So.
That kind of reminds me of Joey Logano or Brad Keselowski when they're not afraid to use the bumper on people.
Yeah, I'm not afraid to use it, but it's cheap. It's easy to use. So you should only use it when it's deserved, so to speak.
Yeah, I know.
So otherwise, it's chaos. If you could use it whenever you wanted, just whenever someone's in front of you, you can just wreck them, right?
Yeah. And I've been on the receiving end of a wreck before in go-karting, so I kind of know what that's like.
Yeah.
During my low period a couple years back, I went to a go-kart track in Denver, in my home state of Colorado, and I basically spent the opening laps of that race, of my first ride. I spent the opening laps, racing a go-kart driven by like a teen. It was a kid that was younger than me, but we were warned, before the race, don't use your bumper on anyone because this isn't NASCAR, and basically what happened was I spent a few laps, battling with him for like 3rd place, and basically it was clear from what it looked like that I was going to get by him, and as soon as I did, he put the bumper on me and took me out. And this is something I'm mentioning in my book. Basically, he took me out, and I basically lost a couple laps because of it. And I kind of told the official while I was being turned around, I was like, the green go-kart took me out, and a few laps later, the kid was basically ordered off the track. And when it was over, basically he went on to finish first on the track. So he was cheering first place, yay, and then he realized he got penalized. And he was literally told, leave and don't come back.
Wow.
So I kind of know what that feels like. And so, yeah, I kind of know what it's like to be used the bumper on.
Yeah, like I said, just the cheap shots are the ones that that you want to get policed. At least yours did.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of not a good racing memory for me. but I would later make a comeback because I purchased 2 rides that day, and I kind of made a comeback after that. And the next race I went on to finish first, which was pretty good.
It doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah, it doesn't get any better than that. And, you know, that's the thing that I've learned in life, you know. One no or one failure is a step closer to success. That's the way I look at it.
True story. True. It's hard to remember in the middle of it, but it's true.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's all the questions I have today. I really appreciate you making the time for me.
Well, I enjoyed it. It's always nice to talk to someone who's done their homework and their preparation and knows their stuff, which you do. Like you said, you are like a racing historian. So
yeah,
best of luck with all the projects, and I'll be rooting from afar.
Thank you. And I think that this next month, when the book is published, I'll send you a copy through the mail for nothing. It's on me.
Well, that'd be very gracious. I'll look forward to that.
And I'll sign it for you as well.
I love it.
All right, it's on me. Don't worry.
Okay. Well, thanks, Doug. Do you go by Doug or Douglas?
Doug, but people can call me Douglas as well. I have a lot of nicknames. When I was in high school, I was kind of a practical joker, and my history instructor called me Private Joker, a reference to, you know, Full Metal Jacket.
Well, speaking of nicknames, my dad's nickname for his whole life with his sisters and those closest to him was Kenney because of the last name Kendall. So how about that?
That's pretty cool. And yeah, other nicknames I've had over the years. My brother calls me Boggle Doggle. And other people have called me the Bug and other things.
How about Doogie? Our engineer, Doug, we used to call him Doug Doogie.
Yeah, I've gotten that nickname before, but it just hasn't stuck, if you know what I mean.
Well, that's the funny thing about nicknames is you usually don't get to choose them, and sometimes the ones that stick are not the ones you want to stick. But
yeah.
Well, very cool. Well, take care, and I'll look forward to seeing the book. Thanks, Doug.
Thank you very much, and have a good day to you.
You too. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye. All right. Thanks for joining me live, everyone. That turned out very well. Thank you.